Let me ask you a question. What would your life look like right now if fear had never been part of your decisions? I'm serious. If fear never whispered, what if you fail? If doubt never screamed, who do you think you are? If hesitation didn't rob you of that moment, the one you still think about late at night, where would you be? What business would you have built? What relationship would you have saved or left? What calling would you have said yes to? Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Most people don't live the life they were created for. Not because they're not smart, not because they're not talented, not even because they didn't try, but because they let fear sit in the driver's seat, while courage sat quietly in the trunk. But not today. Today, we're going to unpack the power of courage. And by the time we're done, you're going to be dangerous to every excuse, every limitation, and every lie the world told you about what's possible for you. Engaging story, drawn from real life experience or told as a vivid parable. A few years ago, I met a man who had every reason to quit. He grew up in a broken home, never met his father, lived in a neighborhood where success meant survival. He had every excuse to fail and everyone expected him to, except one thing. He made a decision, not when he was ready, not when it was convenient, not when he had money, support, or a 5-step plan. He made the decision when he was terrified, broke, alone, unqualified. But he stood up anyway and said, I will not let fear write my story. That man now runs a multi-million-dollar company, mentors others out of poverty, and is breaking generational curses in his family because of one thing, courage. Now, I didn't tell you that story to impress you. I told you that story to remind you of something deep inside you that you may have forgotten. Courage doesn't come to the chosen, it comes to the decided. You don't need more time. You don't need more information. You don't need anyone's permission. What you need is the decision to stop letting fear call the shots. You already know what you're supposed to do. You can feel it in your chest. It's that vision that keeps you up at night, that dream that refuses to die, that whisper that says you're meant for more. And here's the best part. You don't have to be fearless to walk in courage. You just have to move even when you're shaking. So before we go any further, I need you to make a decision right now. Not later, right now. Decide that this will be the moment that changes everything. Because when you choose courage, you don't just change your life, you change every life connected to your obedience. Are you ready? Then let's go deeper. You know what's wild? Most people wait to feel brave before they do something bold. They sit on dreams, they delay the call, they wait to write the book, start the business, heal the relationship, all because they think, I'm not ready yet, I still feel afraid. Let me break the lie wide open. You don't need to be fearless to act in courage. That's the myth. That's the trap. That's the stall tactic the enemy uses to keep you stuck in comfort while your calling dies in silence. Fear is not the enemy of courage. It's the soil where courage is born. I remember talking to a woman who had spent 12 years working the same job, plundered, miserable, burned out, underpaid. She had a vision in her heart for a wellness coaching business, and she knew it could change lives. But every time she got close to launching, fear wrapped itself around her mind like chains. What if I fail? What if no one listens to me? What if I look stupid? So she did what so many do. She Googled, she prayed, she journaled, she waited for the fear to go away. But let me ask you something. What if fear never goes away? Because it's not supposed to. Listen to me. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move while fear tries to hold you hostage. Courage says, I see the fear. I feel the fear, but I'm not bowing to it today. Think about every major breakthrough you've had in your life, every single one. It probably happened while your heart was pounding, your palms were sweating, and you had no clue what would happen next. That conversation you were scared to have, but had it anyway. That time you got on stage, even though your knees were shaking. That business you started when the bank account was almost empty. That prayer you prayed when you didn't even know what to say, that is courage. Courage is the move you make before you know the outcome. It's obedience in the middle of uncertainty. You think Moses felt ready to confront Pharaoh? You think Esther wasn't terrified walking into that king's court, risking her life to save her people? You think Jesus didn't sweat blood in the Garden of Gethsemane? Courage is not convenient. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagrammable. It's gritty. It's raw. It happens in the dark when nobody's clapping and your voice is trembling. But it is the difference between the people who wish and the people who win, because fear never leaves. It just gets quieter when you stop obeying. Now, if you're watching this right now, I believe there's something you were born to do that you've been talking yourself out of. Maybe it's launching the brand. Maybe it's writing the book. Maybe it's walking away from something toxic. Maybe it's picking up the phone and asking for forgiveness. And maybe, just maybe, it scares the life out of you. Good. That means you're in the right place. Because fear shows up strongest when you're closest to destiny. So don't back down now. Don't let fear bully you into a boring life. Don't let the voice of what if drown out the roar of why not. Right now, I want you to picture the thing you've been avoiding because it scared you. Now, I want you to name it out loud. Say it. Call it what it is. Now, ask yourself this question. What will it cost me if I don't do this? Because make no mistake, inaction is not neutral. It's expensive. And I'm telling you, someone is waiting on the other side of your courage. Someone's breakthrough, someone's healing, someone's future. But they'll never get it if you don't step out. So here's your challenge. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the fear to fade. Take the step while your legs are shaking. Speak while your voice is trembling. Start while you're still doubting. Build while your hands are still empty. Because the power isn't in the absence of fear. The power is in the decision to move anyway. Let's go deeper. Let me tell you something that might shock you. God has already placed everything you need for your destiny inside you. Yes, everything. The vision, already there. The gifts, already there. The ideas, the voice, the anointing, the strategy, it's already in you. But here's the problem. Potential doesn't move on its own. Potential doesn't manifest just because you have it. You can die full of potential and never walk in purpose. Why? Because potential is divine, but it's unlocked by courage. It's not talent that separates winners from watchers. It's not intelligence. It's not even opportunity. It's courage. I want you to picture a seed. Inside that tiny seed is the blueprint for a towering tree. Roots, bark, branches, fruit. It's all in there. But you could carry that seed around for 30 years and never see a harvest unless you have the courage to plant it. To bury it in the dirt, to trust the process, to endure darkness, pressure, and time. Potential has to be activated, and courage is the key that unlocks it. I once spoke with a man who had spent decades working a government job, safe, predictable, comfortable, but every time he looked in the mirror, he felt this gnawing ache in his gut. This isn't it. He had a gift for storytelling, a way of speaking that moved people. He knew he was supposed to mentor young men, build a movement, leave a legacy. But every time he thought about stepping out, imposter syndrome showed up. Fear wrapped its fingers around his future and whispered, "It's too late. You've got a pension. Be realistic." So he stuffed the dream, hid the gift, silenced the calling. Until one day, he watched a young man on the news who had been killed in his city, a teenager with no father, no guidance, and no direction. And something snapped inside him. He said, if I don't step up now, how many more will be lost? That day, he did something courageous. He walked into his boss's office, handed in his resignation, and said, I'm not retiring, I'm answering my calling. Since then, he's spoken to thousands, mentored hundreds, saved lives, built a legacy. And it all started with one act of courage. Listen, God didn't give you your gifts to admire them. He gave them to you to deploy them, to release them into the world. But they stay locked inside until you make a decision. I will not die full. I will not die silent. I will not die safe. The word says God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So if fear is in the equation, you already know it didn't come from him. That means courage is not just a good idea, it's obedience. And obedience is where the anointing flows right now. There's a version of you that only exists on the other side of courage. A version of you that's bold, disciplined, clear, focused, walking in power, not perfect, but purposeful. Not fearless, but faithful. But that version won't just show up because you journaled about it. It's waiting on you to move, to trust God enough to act, to believe he wouldn't give you a vision without also giving you the grace to carry it out. You don't need more time, you need more trust. You don't need more confidence, you need more commitment. If the dream came from God, then you owe him the obedience to pursue it, not when it's easy, not when it makes sense. Now, courage is the signal to heaven that you're ready to receive what's already yours. It's the green light to the supernatural. And it's the evidence that you trust the giver more than you fear the outcome. So my challenge to you is this. What gift have you been sitting on? What voice have you silenced? What idea have you kept buried because you didn't feel ready? The world doesn't need your hesitation. It needs your yes. Right now, not when you're fearless, right now. Take the step. Say yes to the calling. Say yes to the risk. Say yes to the potential. Because heaven has already said yes to you. Let's go even deeper. Let me ask you a question that'll punch you in the gut if you're honest. Who's watching you, waiting for you to go first? Because whether you know it or not, someone is looking at your life right now and deciding what's possible for theirs. And it's not your titles, your degrees, or your credentials that will move them. It's your courage. Courage is the currency of leadership. It's what people spend to buy into your vision. It's what makes someone follow you into a burning building or out of a comfort zone. You want influence? You want to lead a team, a family, a community, a generation? Then you'd better be ready to be the first one in the fire. Because the truth is, people don't follow perfection. They follow boldness. They follow conviction. They follow the one who's willing to do what others only talk about. And that's not about personality. It's about posture. Leadership isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the bravest. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I met a young man, barely 30 years old, who decided to leave a high-paying corporate job to start a nonprofit mentoring young boys in inner cities. He had no safety net, no big donors, no blueprint. All he had was a burning conviction that if somebody didn't step in, the streets would. He told me, I didn't feel ready, I just felt responsible. That right there, that's leadership. That's courage. That's the kind of decision that changes generations. Fast forward 5 years, and that man now leads an organization impacting thousands of families. His courage gave others permission to believe again. And guess what? He's not the most qualified. He's not the most educated. But he is the most committed. That's what people follow. They don't follow ease. They follow effort. They don't follow hype. They follow heart. You may not feel like a leader. You may not have a title or a platform. But the moment you decide to act in courage, you become a leader by default. Because leadership starts the moment you take responsibility for more than just yourself. Your family is watching. Your kids are watching. Your coworkers, your church, your community, they're all watching to see what you'll do next. Not what you'll say next, what you'll do. And the moment you stand up, speak out, or step forward, you shift the atmosphere around you. You change what's possible for everyone connected to you. Let me tell you the real secret of influence. People are desperate to believe that something greater is possible, but they need to see it in someone first. They're not waiting for someone perfect. They're waiting for someone real, someone who's been afraid, but moved anyway. Someone who's been knocked down, but got back up. Someone who risked it all and said, I'd rather fail in faith than succeed in fear. That's the leader people follow. That's the influence that multiplies. That's the legacy that outlives you. So here's your challenge. What are you waiting for? Who are you waiting on? Leadership is not a title you're given, it's a calling you answer. And courage is the only way to pay the price. So maybe you don't feel ready. Maybe your voice shakes when you speak. Maybe your hands tremble when you type that post. or send that email or make that move, that's okay. Do it anyway. Because your courage is contagious. When you show up bold, others will stop hiding. When you stand up, others will stop shrinking. When you lead, others will rise. But if you stay quiet, stay safe, stay small, then don't be surprised when the people around you do the same. Somebody is waiting to become everything they were born to be because they saw you go first. So don't play small. Don't shrink for anyone. You were born to lead. And courage is the cost of that crown. Let's take it further. Let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable. What if the thing you're afraid to lose is the very thing keeping you from what you're meant to gain? See, here's what most people never understand. Courage will cost you. It'll cost you comfort. It'll cost you control. It'll cost you certainty. But what you get in return, growth, expansion, revelation, destiny. Here's the tension. Most people want change without challenge. They want purpose without pressure. They want transformation without the transaction of risk. But that's not how greatness works. That's not how God works. Courage always demands risk. There's no version of you stepping into your next level that doesn't include a moment of what if this doesn't work? And the only thing more dangerous than taking the risk is refusing to, let me take you into a true story. There was a woman I worked with, an insanely gifted entrepreneur. She had this powerful idea for a business that combined mental wellness and coaching. But for years, she stayed stuck behind a desk building someone else's dream. Why? Because she was afraid to risk the steady paycheck, afraid to risk the judgment of her friends, afraid to risk failing in front of the people who said, see, I told you not to try. But one day something shifted. She was in a hospital room with her father, who was on his deathbed. And he looked at her with tears in his eyes and said, I spent my whole life being safe and I still ran out of time. That was it. She walked out of that hospital room, drove home and launched her business that week. No perfect plan, no guarantee of success, just raw courage and a decision that regret would not be her legacy. Now she runs a six-figure coaching brand and employs a team across the country. But more importantly, she's alive on the inside again. Let me tell you something real. You can either risk failure or guarantee frustration. Those are your options. Because the pain of trying and failing is temporary. But the pain of never trying, that'll eat you alive for the rest of your life. So let me get in your face for a second. What are you clinging to that's keeping you from rising? What comfort zone have you mistaken for a calling? What security are you hiding behind that's actually just fear dressed up in logic? Because at some point, you've got to decide, am I going to stay stuck in the shallow end of life where it's safe, or am I going to dive into the deep waters of purpose and trust that I won't drown? Growth is never found in safety. It's found in the stretch. It's found in the leap. It's found in the fire, the pressure, the process. God didn't wire you to play small. He didn't anoint you for average. And he didn't give you gifts to sit in the shadows, but he will wait for you to make a move, because faith without works is dead. Vision without action is fantasy. Potential without courage is wasted. The risk is not the enemy. It's the bridge. And it's not going to feel good. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to wonder if you're crazy. And some people will talk about you. Let them, because while they talk, you'll grow. While they wait, you'll build. While they watch, you'll walk into rooms they only dream about. But you've got to be willing to bet on yourself, to trust what God put inside of you more than the fear outside of you, and to understand that no matter how risky courage feels, it always pays back more than it costs. So here's your challenge. Stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I grow? What if this is the thing that activates the next level? What if the risk is actually the rescue you've been praying for? It's time to move, time to leap, time to trade certainty for purpose. Because your future doesn't live in the safety of now. It lives in the risk of next. Let's go even deeper. Let's destroy a myth right now. Courage isn't something you wake up with one day and suddenly have for the rest of your life. Courage isn't a moment, it's a decision. And you have to make it every single day. Every day, not just when you're on stage, not just when the lights are on and people are cheering, not just when it's time to launch the business or post the video or sign the contract, No, real courage happens in the dark, in the quiet, in the small, uncelebrated moments. It happens when no one's watching. It happens when the applause has stopped, but the assignment is still there. You know what's harder than starting? Continuing. You know what's braver than a bold launch? A quiet, consistent yes the next morning, because courage fades if you don't feed it. It shrinks when you stop choosing it. It's not a tattoo, it's a muscle. And if you don't work it daily, it weakens. Let me take you behind the curtain for a moment. There was a time in my life when I was grinding behind the scenes. No stage, no recognition, no followers, no momentum, just raw effort, just obedience, just little yeses every morning that no one clapped for. And I'll be honest, I almost quit. Not because I didn't have a dream, but because I was tired. Tired of waiting, tired of believing, tired of choosing courage and not seeing results. But I remember one morning, I was sitting in my car just staring out the windshield. No music, no motivation, just silence and disappointment. And I felt this quiet voice in my spirit say, you don't need a breakthrough today. You just need to show up brave again. That's it. Not loud, not flashy, just consistent, just faithful, just committed to the decision. And that was the day I understood something that changed my life forever. Courage isn't about height. It's about habit. It's not about slaying giants every day. It's about showing up to the battlefield when you don't even feel like lifting the sword. Look, fear doesn't disappear just because you acted brave once. In fact, the more you grow, the more fear tries to show up. Because new levels bring new devils. New territory brings new intimidation. And the only way to keep moving is to keep choosing. Choosing to believe even when nothing around you looks like progress. Choosing to love when it'd be easier to be bitter. Choosing to speak up when silence feels safer. Choosing to keep building when you feel like giving up. The truth is, your destiny isn't built in one big courageous moment. It's built in thousands of daily decisions to stand, to speak, to risk, to believe. You don't need more time. You don't need more clarity. You don't need more signs. You just need to wake up and say, I choose courage again. Because when you do it once, that's inspiration. But when you do it daily, that's transformation. That's when you stop talking about your calling and start walking in it. So here's the real call today. Are you willing to be brave when it's boring? When it's thankless? When it's hard? When it's lonely? When nobody sees the sacrifices you're making? Because if you can do that, then nothing can stop you. No setback, no delay, no critic, why? Because the most dangerous person on the planet isn't the loudest. It's the one who's consistent. It's the one who refuses to quit. It's the one who gets up every day and says, courage isn't a feeling I wait for, it's a choice I live by. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off and doubt starts whispering again, when the old excuses come back wearing new clothes, when your future looks distant and your fears feel loud, choose courage again. Make that call. Post that video. Apply for that license. Speak up in that meeting. Get back in the gym. Show up in prayer. Send the pitch. Write the first page. Write the next page. Because when you choose courage daily, you don't just grow. You lead. You don't just survive. You inspire. And one day soon, somebody will look at your life and say, because they didn't quit. I won't either. So don't let up now. Don't settle. Don't pause. Don't wait for perfect. Choose courage today, tomorrow, again. Let's finish strong. So here we are. You've heard the stories. You've felt the fire. You've been reminded of what's inside of you. But now comes the part that really matters. Not what you felt while listening, but what you do when this ends. Because courage isn't theory, it's a lifestyle. It's not about the moments you got goosebumps. It's about what you do when the lights go off, the room gets quiet, and fear comes knocking. That's the crossroads you're standing at right now. Not someday, not next year, not when you're ready, right now. So let me speak to your soul. You may not feel qualified. You may still have doubts. You may still be carrying the wounds from the last time you tried, but your fear is lying to you because everything you need is already inside of you. The calling, the potential, the resilience, the wisdom, it's in you, and it's waiting not for permission, but for activation. So what's it going to be? Will you go back to comfort, back to hiding, back to small, or will you rise? Will you stand up today and say, this is the day I stopped waiting. This is the day I choose courage, and I will choose it again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Because you weren't made for average. You weren't built for fear. You weren't called to fit in. You were created to lead, to influence, to build, to become. And every day you choose courage, heaven takes notice. Hell gets nervous. And the world gets better because you showed up. So take the risk. Make the move. Have the conversation. Write the book. Launch the business. Speak the truth. Tell your story. Whatever your next step is, take it with knees shaking, with voice trembling, with faith in your pocket and fire in your heart. This isn't just motivation. This is your moment, because the power of courage isn't just about what you'll accomplish. It's about who you'll become in the process. And when you walk in that, nothing will ever be the same again.